It's the Mustang Insider Show.
All right, we welcome you to another edition of the Mustang Insider. I'm Chris Sylvester. Happy to be getting the Cal Poly athletics year underway, and happy to be getting the Oige Kennedy era underway. Cal Poly men's soccer head coach is our guest here on our first episode of the 23-24 athletic year. Coach, thanks for taking some time. How have you been this summer as you lead up to game one here next week?
No, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. Anytime we get to profile our sport, we're super excited about it. No, it's been great. The summer's been awesome. We've been working hard, finishing out some of the recruiting, and then the guys have been here working hard as well since they came back. And obviously, we're a couple of weeks into our preseason now, and we've had a couple of exhibition games. So no, we're just excited to get going on Monday.
Now, Coach, you come from a Stanford program with a rich history. You were an assistant coach there for 7 seasons, 2 national championships, something you also did as a head coach at Fort Lewis a couple of times. How do you take all that momentum you built up elsewhere and run with it now as the Cal Poly head coach?
Yeah, I've been super fortunate to be at some great places, and honestly, the trophies are always great, but the people you get to meet along the way are probably what makes it special. And so both of those places have special memories, and an awesome experience for me to be a part of those things. All of those places I've been to, we've had some success, but the only thing we can really promise the guys is that we're going to work really hard and focus in on the process, and then hopefully at the end of it, you get a good outcome. And so we're excited to kind of implement some of the ideas that we did at Fort Lewis and then at Stanford, and try and do it here at Cal Poly. And so far I feel like we've got a bunch of guys that have bought into what we're trying to do, and we're just excited to kind of get to display that. And the season is never a sprint; it's always a marathon. So we're in for the long haul, and there'll be moments, that will be positive ones for us, and there'll be certainly moments that we'll want to do better. But it's all part of our growth, and we're all excited for it.
Now, you're from Dublin, Ireland, and you played soccer over there. How did you fall in love with the game growing up in Ireland? And at what point did you think that, soccer would be this big of a deal and this big a part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, in Ireland, kind of like the US, we have other sports. And so, we have our national sports, which is hurling and Gaelic. And I kind of, from a very early age, fell in love with soccer, or football, as we call it back there, which broke my dad's heart because he was more of a Gaelic and a hurler. So, but, from as long as I can remember, I always had a soccer ball and was passionate about that. Grew up where, we had a soccer field right behind our house, and spent so many hours out there with my dad, and that passion grew for the sport. And as a player, you love it, you enjoy it, you want to do it for as long as you possibly can. And I think coaching is probably the next best thing to playing. It definitely, it's not as good, but it's the next best thing to be around a group of guys on a journey. So I'm excited to do that, and super fortunate to be now getting to do it here in San Luis Obispo.
Have you found a local pub here that feels like home at all?
You know what? I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and when I'm not with them and my wife, I'm here in the office. So I haven't actually gotten to experience that yet. I know there's definitely a ton of them that exist downtown, because every time we're down there, we see them. But hopefully in the off season, we'll have some things to celebrate and do that way.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned growing up, playing the game, and eventually coaching the thing, and how coaching is the next best thing to playing. Were there some coaches as you were younger that you tried to maybe mold the way you were to players, and the way you kind of instituted your different types of systems and strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, my dad was a massive influence. He was a professional soccer coach as well. And he was one that probably sparked the fire really early on, and encouraged me to go down that pathway. And even as I was playing, I was started to take coaching licenses and started to work towards what maybe after soccer would look like for me. And then I got really fortunate to end up at Fort Lewis, and basically to have the best mentor in the game in Jeremy Gunn. I got to work with Jeremy at Fort Lewis for a short period, and then obviously we got to team up again at Stanford. And I would say, he's probably had the greatest influence on my most recent years and how I see the game and not so much the X's and O's, but just how you run a program, and how important the relationships are with everybody that you work with, and that excitement to go on a journey with people. And I think he has been a great resource for me. And the last couple of years where I've gotten to work with him closely, I don't know that I could have had a better experience in that. And like I said, I'm super fortunate to have him as a mentor. So I have a lot of thank yous to Jeremy. I don't know how I could ever repay him because he's basically allowed me to get on the pathway that I'm on, and has played a huge part in it.
Oige Kennedy of Cal Poly men's soccer, our guest. He's the head coach. Let's talk about this team. This is year one. What's the realistic expectation for this club?
I think, like I said, we got here in January, and we've had a group of guys that have bought into what we're trying to do, and we've been able to add to that with some new players coming in. I think the realistic expectation and what we've kind of spoke to the guys about is we want to make every game as competitive as possible, and I think that's something that we can realistically do. And I feel like if we have that as the mindset and that as the goal, then hopefully at the end of it, we'll have some things to be proud of and be able to champion. But, as a coach, I don't think you can ever promise how many games you're going to win. And, I've been part of teams that 24 wins and 1 loss and won national championships as a head coach. And I couldn't have promised that at the start of that season, even though I knew we had a really good team. So I think what we focus in on is the process. We focus in on trying to get the guys better every day. I know it sounds generic and a bit corny, but that's really what all you can focus in on. And I think if you do that, and we do a good job as a staff on keeping the guys motivated and keeping the guys competing, then I think we're going to be in a good spot at the end of the season.
You recently posted a 7-0 exhibition win over Fresno Pacific, and now you put your eyes on the season opener against Oral Roberts. It'll be a home game for you coming up. How much does a preseason win like that give these guys confidence heading into the real thing?
I think that the 3 exhibition games we've been able to take something from all of them. We obviously got to go down to UCLA and play against a really strong team there, and that was a good battle for us, and the guys competed really well. And then obviously we tied against San Jose State, which is a team that were in their conference final last year, and we're 1 game away from maybe getting into the tournament. And they have a lot of their guys returning, so that was a great experience for our guys. And then obviously, look, it's always fun to play at home. It's always fun to score lots of goals, and we can certainly take some confidence from the last game. But we know that Monday, when you do it for real, is going to be a different beast for sure.
Connor Lisenby had a hat trick in that exhibition. Gabe Penner, he's held it down at keeper. What other guys should Cal Poly fans get used to hearing about this fall?
I think we've, Connor obviously got some goals the other night. We've had Luke Schaefer has been able to contribute in some goals as well. Gabe has done great, fantastic in some of the games. We've also been able to use Nicky McCune in goal as well. And so that's been good. Obviously Nate Colley's a returning player that has a lot of experience. But, some of the younger guys like a Joaquin Torres, who didn't play last year, who's only a freshman, I think has shown really well in the games that we've had and in the trainings. And so I think there'll be some new names that jump out and some people can get excited about. I think we're still a younger team in terms of experience. We don't have a ton of guys that have played a lot of games in the Big West, so we're still growing with that. But I'm excited for the energy that the guys have brought and the compete level that they've brought. And I think hopefully it will be fun to watch.
Tell me a little bit about the staff that you've assembled here for year one, because obviously as an associate head coach the last handful of years at Stanford, you know how important it is as a head coach to have guys that you trust behind you that can focus on different things, because you can only do so much. So what went together in hiring the guys that you did to help lead this program?
Yeah, I think, Jeremy highlighted to me that, very early on when you do this, you've really got to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, and we like to work hard here, and so we've certainly done that with the staff. Our first assistant coach, Wu Zhan, has been with me since January. Basically, he was, as soon as we were hired and in place, he was in a car driving across the country to get here and ready to get to work day one. And he's been immense. I mean, he's got such a good knowledge of the game. He's got a great work ethic, and I'm super excited for what he's already put in place for the program and how he's going to continue to do. And then Emerson Lovato, we just hired from Bucknell as a goalkeeper coach. And as a second assistant coach. And, Emerson has already started to have some great relationships with that position. Obviously, it's such a key position in our game. And Emerson has a great background and knowledge. And I think our goalkeepers are really enjoying working with him, as are the field players. And then Alex Figueroa, we've also got working with us as another assistant coach who's done great. He's been really passionate and energy giver about each training session. And when you're working day in, day out, and you're so close to each other, you need people who provide that energy and are positive. And so I think we have a well-rounded staff. I think the guys are working as hard as they possibly can as a staff to give the players the best possible platform to be successful.
Coach, I mentioned you were at Stanford for 7 years. How much did recruiting for you guys change from your first year there in 2016 to last season, with obviously more of an emphasis on being able to reload on experienced guys that you don't necessarily have to develop in the transfer portal? And what's the philosophy that you've brought to Cal Poly as you've tried to build a winner here?
Yeah, I look, the recruiting, I mean, no matter how good we are as coaches and how good we are at X's and O's, I think recruiting is everything. You live and die by it. So, we spend a lot of time on that. And I think, honestly, what we developed in the last couple of years at Stanford is really going after character-based recruitment, and sometimes maybe overlooking a deficiency in a player, whether that's technical or tactical, because you have the right character. And I think that is so important to our sport. Again, it comes around to how much time we spend with each other. And I think you want to make sure that when you bring someone into the brotherhood that we're trying to create, that they have the right character traits. And so we've spent a lot of time focusing in on that. And obviously it's difficult. You've got to try and get to know these kids. You've got to try and develop relationships with them to understand what makes them the character that they are. But I think those are things that we've really tried to focus in on, as well as the one other area, which is really how competitive someone is. I think, we look for guys who are intrinsically competitive by nature. And because as a coach, I can help someone maybe get slightly better at a technical aspect of the game. But if they're lacking that competitive drive and that intrinsic motivation to be the best version of themselves, that can be really difficult to change in such a short period. So those would be the areas that we really focus in upon. And, what's been amazing is that the school here, the academic degree, the marketableness of what you graduate with from Cal Poly, it's not been a hard sell. And then obviously San Luis Obispo being so beautiful as a place to live, those two things have really been right there at the forefront of how we've recruited. And it's been great to have such pillars in what we can offer to guys. And so we hope that the soccer program obviously will continue to develop, and we can have that as another thing that we're promoting with the guys that we're looking at bringing in.
Coach, last thing for you. I know you've coached in national championships, high leverage postseason matches, but when UC Santa Barbara comes here October 15th for the Blue-Green game, where might that land on your list of college soccer atmospheres?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, as an assistant coach at Stanford, I got to experience it in the crowd and got to see that game a few years ago and at Spanos Stadium, and was blown away by it, and fortunate enough to gone to some of the most hostile atmospheres in the country as a coach and experience those, but nothing compared to that. I think we're super excited about that. That's a great reward for the guys for working hard. We just have to make it more than just about 2 games a season. That's what we really have to focus in on. So that will be our reward. We'll be excited to do that in front of our crowd, and excited to play in that atmosphere. And I think as a player, you can't help but be excited to play in that game. But we as a program have to have the mindset that we're going to make every game competitive. And I think that's what we're going to be shooting for.
Well, they are back on the pitch. Cal Poly men's soccer getting ready to lift the lid off of their season. Oral Roberts is first. Coach, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Best of luck this year.
You as well.
Thank you.
Well, we are excited to have the soccer teams back in action. Alex Crozier has a loaded group picked to win the Big West this year. And Ogie Kennedy certainly will make some strides with that men's program in his first season here in 2023. And of course, we shortly kick off the Paul Wolf era with Cal Poly Mustangs football. The volleyball season is underway. Cross country is busy as well. It is a great time to be a Mustang, as it always is, but to kick off a new college athletic year is always special. Stay tuned to the Cal Poly Athletics YouTube channel. We will have interactive podcasts all year long. I'm Chris Sylvester. Thanks for watching.
This has been the Mustang Insider Show. The preceding has been a Learfield's presentation on the Cal Poly Sports Network.